मुयस्सर नहीं इंसान होना। गिरिया चाहे है खराबी मेरे काशाने की, तेरा दीवार से टपके है बयाबा होना। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, पर नहीं आती, पर नहीं आती कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती। है खबर गर्म उनके आने की, आने की है खबर गर्म उनके आने की। आज ही घर में बोरिया ना हुआ कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती। घर हमारा जो न रोते भी तो वीरा होता। घर हमारा जो न रोते भी तो वीरा होता। बहर गर बहर न होता तो बयाबा होता। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, कोई वीरानी सी वीरानी है, कोई वीरानी, कोई वीरानी सी वीरानी है। कोई वीरानी सी वीरानी है, दस्त को देख के घर याद आया। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, हम कहाँ के दाना थे, हम कहाँ के दाना थे। किस हुनर में यकता थे, बेसबब हुआ गालिब दुश्मन आसमां अपना। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, रंज से खूगर हुआ इंसान तो मिट जाता है रंज। रंज से खूगर हुआ इंसान तो मिट जाता है रंज। मुश्किलें मुझ पर पड़ी इतनी के आसान हो गई। यूं ही कर रोता रहा गालिब तो ए अहले जहां, देखना इन बस्तियों को तुम के वीरा हो गई। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, जब तवक्को ही उठ गई गालिब क्यों किसी का गिला करे। कोई कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, चिपक रहा है बदन पर लहू से पैरहन। हमारी जेब को अब हाजते रफू क्या है। जला है जिस्म जहां दिल भी जल गया होगा। कुरेदते हो जो अब राख जुस्तजू क्या है। रगों में दौड़ते फिरने के हम नहीं कायल। जब आंख ही से न टपका तो फिर लहू क्या है। ना रही ताकत गुफ्तार और अगर हो भी तो किस उम्मीद पे कहिए कि आरज़ू क्या है। कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, कोई उम्मीद पर नहीं आती, कोई
One of the most beautiful hotels that I've ever visited, with one mortifying and disgusting flaw. I'm gonna tell you all about that in this full tour, so let's get into it. Welcome to Udaipur. If you'd like to know the exact rate that I paid for my stay, or my next 5 videos in queue, please check out the description below. And if you're new here, hi there and welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin. The internet needs more honest content, plain and simple, and that's why I'm here. I make airline trip reports, high-end hotel reviews, and cruise ship tours as well. I self-fund all of my videos, and I don't alert any company that I'm coming, because I want to have as normal of an experience as possible. Then, I can give you nothing more than my own personal, honest, unbiased opinion. Truth is, I wish this wasn't true, but the thumbnail, the teaser, and the title of this video are not clickbait. Stick around and you're gonna see something that will likely make your stomach turn, and is the very reason why I felt the need to revamp my scoring system, for only the second time ever. As with all of my videos in this India series, if you're new here, feel free to click the link above or in the description for my India playlist, which will have around 25 videos by year's end. And since this video is longer than normal, I promise I won't be talking the entire time. Okay, so I was picked up from Raffles by the Udaipur's car, and en route, I was asked if I wanted to arrive by water or by road. I couldn't say no to the boat transfer, so the driver called ahead and ensured that it was ready for me. Note that if you do go with the boat transfer, you'll be dropped off, and then the driver will continue by road to the hotel with your bags. Crossing the near pristine Lake Pichola, we passed by the city palace in Udaipur's Old Town, as well as the Taj Lake Palace, my review of which is linked above and below. Let's not take into account the fact that the Taj Lake Palace was an actual palace for a moment. That said, I think Udaipur is easily the most impressive of all the hotels and resorts directly surrounding Lake Pichola, perhaps only outdone in scale by Raffles down the road a bit. Arriving at the Welcome Pavilion is described as follows. Guests are ferried by golf cart to the main gates, whose large cusped arch has historically been used by Meier craftsmen. Other Meier features, such as large domes and cupolas, arrest the eye and define the Udaipur skyline. Chhatris, or ornamental pavilions, dot the roofline as well. The effect of the exterior walls, now glowing in early morning light, is achieved with gutai, a traditional lime plastering technique that requires up to 18 months of preparation and is known to last centuries without any maintenance. I know quite a few hotels that could use that kind of durability. There are certain parts of this hotel that are really easy to get lost in. Now, that has two meanings, since it is a very unique layout, which some might find a bit complicated. But what I primarily mean is getting lost in the era, getting lost in the Meier architecture. There's a sense of romance in these walls, which I personally think is unmatched in Udaipur. The Taj Lake Palace simply doesn't have the scale and grandeur. And Raffles, as beautiful as it is, does not feel ingrained in the land as Udaipur's does. Udaipur's is as local as it is regal, as beautiful as it is bespoke. If I'm honest, there's really only been one other time that I felt such a way about a property, at the time that I was here at least. And that was at the Zania Resort by San Ho in Vietnam, one of the very first videos that I ever published, before I found my voice, so to speak. A resort which was equally, if not even a bit more so, inspired by the local culture and customs. Of all of the small touches at this hotel, or any other luxury property in India, I do have to say that those rose petal showers truly do create a sense of arrival unlike any other. Just opened in 2002, surprisingly recent if you ask me, the property has just 87 rooms and suites spread across 40 acres of land, which was one part of the Maharana's hunting grounds. Nearly 40% of the hotel's grounds to this day are designated as a wildlife sanctuary. If you've been keeping up with my India series, you've probably heard this spiel a few times by now, since many of Udaipur's properties are very close to one another. The city of Udaipur, known as the City of Lakes, is in the arid state of Rajasthan, in the far northwest of India. Its small regional airport is around a 45-minute drive from the center. After a 20-minute boat ride across Lake Pichola, you'll arrive at the sprawling Udaipur on the west side of the lake. For future reference, my room is located right about here. As we explore the lobby area, let's begin to mention the titans in the industry who came together to design this property. The interiors were designed by Malaysian-based designer Jeffrey Wilkes, that name you may recognize from the Leela Palace Udaipur video that I put out recently. Of this space, he says, quote, "A large dome with floral paintings on the gold leaf gives an arrival of royal importance. An eclectic approach to decor was most suitable. Applied decoration, like mirror inlay, was inspired by Udaipur's Lake Palace and City Palace. We also used deco-style furniture and other period pieces." The architect for the property was Nimish Patel of Abhikram Architects, a renowned local firm known for their usage of traditional elements in modern structures. Of the Udaipur, Patel said simply, "We're building a palace that will respect and represent the continuity of Meier tradition in all respects." As for my 2 cents, this is clearly a special property. I think it's rare these days when something that can feel 20 years old, and it does, also feels perfectly up to date. For the property, I cannot even begin to imagine what a modern version of this would look like. Even if it was renovated from top to bottom tomorrow, I'd expect and hope that much of the traditional touches and furnishings would remain the same. Moving now towards the guest areas, we pass the candle room. At night, the candles are all lit and reflected in the black glass mosaic ceiling, which in person was stunning, but on camera actually looks better during the day. As we begin to walk towards the two primary pools, we're going to pass through a series of corridors and gardens along the way, which brings me to my first big point of the video. Every bit of this property that is touched by the outdoors is absolutely stunning. The interior gardens and water features which we're walking through now are beautiful, but to me, where the property really shines are the rolling hills heading down towards Lake Pachola, as well as the two showstopper pools. Do you ever wonder why other content creators and I always ask for you to click that thumbs up button and subscribe? Well, there's two reasons. First, it's really easy to forget to do. We all forget to do it sometimes, myself included. Secondly, it truly does help the channel continue to grow by increasing engagement. So please, click it, subscribe, and share with friends and family. Comment if you'd like as well. If you'd like to support me even further, my Patreon is linked in the description below. Thanks very much in advance. As we check out the first pool, have a think about who you might think was the designer for all of these outdoor spaces. This pool that you see now is one of the semi-private pools which connect a handful of rooms in two areas of the resort. So, as we look around, want to learn two fun facts about peacocks? It's quite possible that the rest of the world knew this already, but I certainly did not. First, as beautiful as they are, well, as beautiful as males are at least, they are truly the most annoying sounding birds that I've ever encountered. You know those mid-century cartoons with the squeezable air horn in the cars? That is precisely what they sound like. Almost makes me miss the sound of roosters. Second thing, I swear I had no idea they flew. I almost had a minor heart attack filming this clip with a pair of them flying right over my head, finding their chosen perch. Now, onto the second pool. Take a look at those tiles. Decided on who the designer is yet? Yep, once again, Bill Bensley. Bensley notes that there is truly nothing meant to be bling on the property, and stresses that no matter how opulent it is, it was meant to look as if it's always been here. An objective well achieved, I'd say. On the design, he said, quote, "In our drawings, we borrowed the traditional Mughal miniaturized style of painting in our concept drawings. Using false flat perspectives, a riot of colors accentuated by some 300 sheets of gilt, and fanciful ancient symbols for trees and human figures. We came up with 45 meters of drawings, and most of our ideas were adopted." One other thing that Bensley noted that I had no idea about while I was there is, quote, "There's a labyrinth of underground service tunnels allowing staff and buggies to whiz fresh and ever so hot meals to rooms. Guests are left to walk undisturbed to ground level, without the constant passing of laundry, engineering, room service, and guest buggies." And here's part of those beautiful rolling hills that I was talking about. So, Oberoi. It's a big name in the game, and I featured it twice on the channel previously. If you'd like a deeper dive into the history of the brand, known widely currently as the best hotel brand on earth, please take a look at my video from their Mumbai hotel. Briefly, the company began in 1934 in the far north of India in Shimla, where Mr. M.S. Oberoi pioneered the idea of Indian luxury hospitality by opening his first hotel. To this day, throughout their 19 hotel properties, they practice two guiding principles. The Dharma, simply the concept of guest as God, and more specifically, Oberoi's, the guest is everything, meant to put the guest above all else, profit included. We'll see about that. One thing that I do honestly respect greatly about the brand, because I've seen the fruits of its labor in action, is the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development, which was established in New Delhi in 1966. To this day, the center graduates around 100 students every year, and this is one of the core reasons why Oberoi service is meant to be so consistent. I'll go into more detail about the center in my upcoming A Marvelous video. As we begin to head to my room for this day, that brings me to my second point. There is no question that service is at the very core of everything that Oberoi does. Some call it cold in style. Personally, I like it. It's anticipatory, low touch, but high value. You're never meant to see any of the magic that's happening. If you needed something, it was likely already provided before you realized that you needed it. But at this property, while I was there did seem to be a disconnect between that great customer service and just how hands-on management needed to be in order to execute it, which is surely the root cause of the problem that I've been alluding to, which we'll see in my room. For my stay, I had a premier room connected to one of the semi-private pools that I showed you earlier. As we look around, let me just note that off the bat, it is a bit of a compact room. Considering it's a newer property, I would have expected them to put a bit more thought into the size and layout, especially considering the room sizes that were common in the early 2000s. That said, I'll let you explore, and towards the end, I'll come back with my 3 favorite and least favorite things about the room. Okay, so as always for me, it's all about the details, big and small. Today we're going to start with my three favorites. And first is perhaps obviously this pool. It's just honestly one of the most refreshing things you could possibly see on a 105-degree day. And I'd argue that it's almost nicer to have this semi-private pool instead of a private one, since the scale here is pretty massive for just a handful of rooms sharing it. My second point is the structure of the rooms and how they're laid out along the open-air hallways. There's just something very transportive about the corridors. And because there are windows along the corridors, with privacy fixtures of course, in the living space and the bathroom, it means that you get natural light at both ends of the room. Lastly, I like the quirky nature of the room's decor. Some might say that it's a mix of a palette of colors and textures that don't really seem like they should be existing together. But here, I think it adds to the sense of charm. Now on to three details that I'm not a fan of. First, the hotel does not levy a service charge. We get it. There's no need to put multiple reminders in the room, including, oddly enough, in the toilet room. Second, very small thing, but that welcome plate just looks sad and out of place. Nothing more to it. Lastly, here's the doozy. Let me set this up for you, and I'm working off of the timestamps from the original photos and videos that I took. I got back to my room at 8:33 p.m. At 8:42, while I was arranging my bed the way that I like it, I noticed this stain on the sheet. It was unexpected, but not a huge deal. I took a photo of it because, well, I take photos of absolutely everything. I'll point out part of this in this original clip. Can you see how the bed kind of has small hills and valleys in it? It's a bit lumpy. Keep that in mind. 10:16 p.m. Time for bed. I was plugging my phone in on the opposite side of the bed that I sleep on, and I noticed another stain on the sheet at the upper corner of the bed. Then I touched it, and I noticed that it was under the sheet. Brace yourself. Let me make this perfectly clear. This is exactly how the bed was. There was a single thin sheet over this mismatch of mattresses and folded and utterly disgusting mattress toppers. I was equally shocked at how unbelievably dirty these are, and actually pissed at myself for not having checked sooner in the day. Something that I would normally check in detail when I arrived. But hey, it's an Oberoi. I called and demanded, not a word I usually use in a situation like this, demanded that the duty manager get to my room immediately. I simply covered the bed back up, and when he came in, I revealed it again. If there's one thing that I know for sure, it's that he was genuinely mortified, absolutely speechless. Trying to explain myself as if that was necessary, I noted that the reason that I didn't check the bed until now, so late, was because I had had exceptional experiences at some of their other properties. And as he was taking photos of the bed, he froze, looked at me, and said, "You're a repeat guest?" I replied yes, and he said in the most genuine tone possible, quote, "I assure you, we will make this up to you, but in this very moment, how can I make this okay for you right now?" I asked him to have it fixed as quickly as possible since I wanted to get up for sunrise. Done, he said. He left. In reality, it took 45 minutes to remake my bed, and I can pretty likely tell you why. My guess, they couldn't find any clean mattress toppers. In the end, the bed was remade with 3 very thin mattress toppers, a mattress protection layer, and a fitted sheet. And in the clip here, you can see it's no longer lumpy. As we take a look at the bar and then head down to a Dai Mahal, let me explain why this one hit differently for me, and why it was part of the reason that led me to change my scoring method. I mean, come on. There was nothing between these mattress toppers and the bottom sheet, the single sheet. The housekeeping staff sees this every day. They have surely reported it up the chain previously. If these are this bad in my room, this mismatched, and this old, I think it's fair to assume that every single bed in this hotel is the same, or was the same. This also quite perfectly explains why their beds are always lumpy in photos that you see of them, because there's an assortment of crap underneath the sheets. Can we just take a step back for a moment and again remember that this is the world's best hotel brand? Many would argue that this is one of the, if not the flagship property in their portfolio of 19. I'll make one other thing clear. I don't for a second blame housekeeping, the housekeeping staff at least. The attention to detail that the service staff in this hotel showed was second to none. This was either a housekeeping management problem or a budget problem, or a combination of both. I was here in May of 2023. When I started this channel during COVID, it was critical that I published as fast as I possibly could since things were changing so rapidly. Now that things are different and they should be the same experience from today to next year, I prefer that my videos are on a 3 to 6 month delay, for a variety of reasons. Here's my thought. There's no way on earth that all that bedding hasn't already been changed. Honestly, there can't be any way that it hasn't been changed. And I want to present the score of my experience alongside the score of what I think the property is likely capable of doing without the insane circumstances that I saw. The next morning, I was called early in the morning by, I believe, the front desk manager. I'll be honest, on this day, I spoke to a lot of managers, so I might get a couple of the titles wrong. She was profusely apologizing and was offering a variety of service recovery options, the first being to extend my stay on the house. Due to my itinerary, that wasn't possible, and I was honestly trying to downplay it at this point. Clearly, they got my message. I don't need stuff, but I'm glad that they offered. She persisted though, and eventually I agreed to have a spot treatment on the house. Note that when I checked out, unbeknownst to me, as in it was done after I left, and I was informed of it as we walked to the buggy after checkout, they took 25% off of the room rate as well. Now we're in Udai Mahal, which is their fine dining restaurant. Note that you can order from this menu at the other restaurant as well, which I'll show you in a bit. As dusk began to set in, the property took on a completely different energy. There are benches throughout the property, and you'd be lucky to find one that was empty, even though it was low season. It was just a real sense of everyone just enjoying being outside and the atmosphere with live music in the background. At the lakefront is Chandi, the alfresco dining terrace and bar. Here we have the outdoor seating area of Surya Mahal, the all-day dining venue. The nightly cultural show would take place just adjacently while you're having dinner, which I think is a very nice solution instead of offering dinner and the show separately. The food and service here was absolutely exceptional. The atmosphere was casual and lively, but the service was just very Oberoi and formal, but in a very charismatic way. And that brings me to my third big point of the video, the food. Honestly, Oberoi does food really, really well. It's rarely fussy, but it's always flavorful and exactly as described. I particularly like that the chefs almost always come out and check on you personally after you have your meal. Also part of the food experience being so good here is due to the Oberoi's breakfast, which is undoubtedly my favorite hotel brand breakfast on earth. We'll see that in a little bit. Keep in mind that this was before the bed incident, but when I came back to my room after dinner, there was a beautiful small frame tapestry waiting on the coffee table. Keep in mind that this was before the bed incident, but when I came back to my room after dinner, there was a beautiful small frame tapestry waiting on the coffee table. Time for breakfast. Our second to last stop for this video. While we take a look around, I'll note that multiple managers came up to me while I was here to offer their apologies, including the front desk manager that I'd spoken to earlier, as well as the housekeeping manager, who, well, frankly, I can't imagine is still there. Breakfast is a small, well-curated buffet, as well as a full a la carte menu. Last up, we have the spa and fitness center. The spa facilities were very well outfitted, and the massage was very good, if not a little bit textbook. Alright, so let me explain the new scoring system. The first slide that you'll see will be the same format score as always. This is the property score. This will be based on everything as it was meant to be. What does that mean? Well, let's say that breakfast was horrible because it was super limited and the ingredients used were not top quality. Well, those were choices that the hotel made, so points for that would be deducted from the main score. Now, let's say that breakfast was great, except for the fact that you found, I don't know, a hairball in your omelet. That clearly was not how it was meant to be, so that would be a penalty. The concept came to me recently when I was in Mexico. I was at a resort which will remain nameless for now, but let's just say it was a very highly regarded resort. Well, literally half of the entire property, including 2 of the 3 pools, 3 of the 5 restaurants, and the vast majority of the resort grounds were closed. And frankly, the part of the resort that was open was not looking too great. My reservation was able to be canceled up to 72 hours in advance. The email saying that half the property would be closed was sent just 48 hours before arrival. So in this case, obviously I had a really crap experience, but also, quite obviously, I'm sure it's fully open again, especially by the time that video will come out. Hence the property score and the penalty concept. I'll refine it over time, and I'm happy to hear any feedback about it. Penalties will range depending on how much I think it impacted my stay. I'll also note that service recovery, no matter how good or bad, will be reflected in the original service score only and will not negate the penalty. For properties where no penalty is necessary, there will just be the original format. I just want to be able to give people that are researching this hotel a good idea of what they might be able to expect on their stay. I hope this all makes sense. Anyway, back to Udai Villas. So, it is an incredible property, and honestly, I would recommend it, only because I truly cannot imagine that the beds are still in the same state as during my stay. So, as odd as it may sound at this point, the Udai Villas is actually my favorite resort in Udaipur, the bed thing aside. The grounds are incredible. The atmosphere is otherworldly, and it is truly an escape just a stone's throw away from the city of lakes. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video today and found it useful. If you did, please be sure to click that thumbs up button. And subscribe for much more India content coming throughout November. I'll see you next time on my Indigo flight from Udaipur to Jaipur. Oh, and thanks for watching until the end.
Good morning. Yeah, we're in a nice little local area right now. I walked through it yesterday as I was on my way to my cafe, and I realized I want to come back here and try some breakfast here. Main thing is, when I went to Delhi, I went to Taj Mahal Hotel, and everybody said, oh man, you gotta do it in Mumbai. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna head it to Mumbai. Not only that, but I booked it for $1,000. So it's crazy expensive. I'm looking forward to it, but first, we gotta get some local breakfast. What is this? Okay. Thank you so much. much. Thank you so much. That was nice. Thank you.
So we have given you an upgrade to our luxury.
Okay, perfect.
Suite. We have been upgraded to the prime suite.
Okay.
Have given you.
Okay, so
Have been upgraded.
to the which suite?
It's prime.
Prime.
The Taj Lake Palace is an actual palace in an actual lake, and it's one of the crown jewels of the Indian hotel scene. What more is there really to say? We've got a full tour coming up today, so let's get into it. Welcome to Udaipur. If you'd like to know the exact rate that I paid for my stay, or my next 5 videos in queue, please check out the description below. And if you're new here, hi there and welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin. I think that the world needs a bit more honest travel content these days, so I make airline trip reports, high-end hotel reviews, and cruise ship tours as well, all without invitation. I always film without the company's knowledge, and I self-fund my trips to be sure to get a true experience. Then I give you nothing more than my own personal, honest, unbiased opinion. A royal palace, a museum, a city of lakes, and oh yeah, a hotel too. Squeezing all of that into one video in a semi-sorta reasonable amount of time is a challenge. So today, we're gonna take the time to take it all in, learn about the history of the palace, actually explore the hotel, and take a look at the beautiful details. But I'm gonna limit my narration just a little bit to let the palace speak for itself. One key thing to wrap our heads around from the get-go is that the Taj Lake Palace is not on an island. The palace quite literally is the island. Because of this, the amount of extra space is really limited. So when arriving, even if coming directly from one of the other Lake Petrola resorts, you're gonna need to first go to their mainland pier for a bag scan before you can head over to the palace itself. From the pier, you'll be taken by boat to the palace, where you'll be greeted and showered with rose petals, and then guided to the reception hall, where check-in will take place. As we get that process sorted, let me begin to tell you a bit about the history, and why my first big point today is the fact that the Taj Lake Palace is really the ultimate bucket list stopover. There aren't that many places on Earth where you'll be able to visit two palaces in one day, and maybe even sleep in one of them. Jagniwas, the official name of the palace, was constructed in the 1740s by the House of Meier. To understand why the Lake Palace was built, we need to mention that in the immediate vicinity, there are actually 4 palaces. 4 that I know of at least. The City Palace, which you can see ahead of you right now, was built in 1553. At the time, the ruler was Maharana Sangram Singh II, and he was living at Jagmandir, another palace on a small island in the lake. His son at the time, Prince Jagat Singh, asked his father if he and his wives, yes plural, could move into Jagmandir. The request was denied since Maharana didn't want to invade the privacy of his daughters-in-law and risk embarrassing them. At the time, the party system was followed, and so the wives would always need to be veiled if the Maharana could possibly walk in at any moment. So the prince was given permission to build Jagniwas just a stone's throw away. Let's take a closer look at the palace and how accessible it is today. We are in the state of Rajasthan, in the far northwest of India, specifically in Udaipur, the famous city of lakes. From the airport to the hotel's pier is around a 45-minute drive. From the pier, you'll take a boat transfer to the north side of the lake palace, where the main entrance in Dakar. For reference, the old town of Udaipur is to the right, with various other resorts surrounding the lake all around. Despite a relatively, shall we say, petite floor plan, the palace can be a bit disorienting, since there aren't that many close-by visual cues when walking around the inner areas. For reference, my room was over here and had a view directly facing the city palace. After the prince's reign as the Maharana, the palace was frequently used as a summer palace for the House of Meier, and was also used for some periodic events for which a bit of, let's say, discretion was desired. Imagine taking a boat from one of your palaces to your other palace in order to be discreet. Oh, and did I mention there's actually a 4th palace as well? We'll get a glimpse of that a bit later. The palace was constructed largely of local marble from Rajnagar, around 50 miles from Udaipur. The construction techniques are mostly Mewar and Rajput, with a bit of Mughal architecture influence. Throughout the palace, you'll notice a marble inlay technique called parchinkari, using jewel-toned stones to inlay into pure white marble with minute detail. Agra and Rajasthan are the primary areas known for this artwork, and one of the most prominent examples of it is along the exterior and interior of the Taj Mahal. Believe it or not, it's not just a solid white building like many photos would make you believe. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more beautiful hotels and resorts in India, check out my India playlist linked above and below. By the end of the series, there'll be around 20 or 25 videos in there for you to explore. These days, the entry, lounge, and courtyard are defined by gleaming marble floors and traditional furniture in an open-air setting with pops of color in just about every direction. Now we're in the hotel's bar, Amrit Sagar, which is just on the other side of the courtyard and features archways adorned with tikri mirror mosaic art. If you support the content that I've been putting out on the channel, or just honest travel content in general, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. That, along with sharing the video, are the 3 easiest ways to tell YouTube that this video is worth your time. For anyone interested in supporting, my Patreon is also linked in the description below. Thanks very much for watching today. As we head down the corridor to the beautiful fountains and pond in the courtyard, let me tell you a bit about how this palace came to be a hotel in the 1960s. The designer of the renovation, American artist D.D. Contractor, said this of the project, quote, "I worked from 1961 to 1959, and what an adventure it was. His Highness, was a real monarch, really like kings always were. So one had a sense of being one of the last people to be an artist for the king. It felt the way one imagines it would feel like working in the courts of the Renaissance. It was an experience of going back in time to an entirely different era, a different world. His Highness was actually working on a shoestring. He was not in dire straits, mind you, but when he came to the throne, he inherited big problems, like what to do with the 300 dancing girls that belonged to his predecessor, Maharana Bhopal Singh. He tried to offer them scholarships to become nurses, but they didn't want to move out of the palace, so what could he do? He had to just let them stay. They were old crones by this time, and on state occasions, I remember they would come out and sing and dance with their veils down, and occasionally one would lift hers to show a wizened old face underneath. He had something like 12 state elephants, and he had all of these properties which were deteriorating. The buildings on Jagnoise were starting to fall down, and basically the Lake Palace was turned into a hotel because it seemed like the only viable way that it could be maintained. It was really a job of conservation, unquote. And so it was converted into a heritage hotel by Maharana Bhagwat Singh, the 75th ruler of the House of Mewar. With this hotel, Udaipur was eventually put on the world map as a tourist destination as business thrived, hosting everyone from heads of state to Hollywood actors. In 1971, he signed a deal with the Indian Hotels Company to manage the property. IHCL is the hotel arm of the Taj Group, part of Tata Group. As we head over to the outdoor pool now, I'll mention that today's second big point, this palace is pretty intimate in scale. By no means have you seen the entire thing yet, but you've already seen probably around 80% of the common areas. Everything here is simply on a smaller scale. There are no sprawling lawns or walking trails, but there are certainly some beautiful views and endless intriguing details. So, having been a hotel for nearly 60 years at this point, who stays at the Taj Lake Palace these days? It's mostly couples or pairs of friends, spanning many ages, who are coming to see what it's all about or perhaps celebrate a special occasion. When here, they'll find a welcoming but fairly formal and buttoned-up vibe, which does loosen up a bit after dark. Just a brief walk through the inner courtyard before heading to lunch at the absolutely stunning Jaroka. If you'd like to know more about the history of Taj hotels in general, please check out my Taj Palace Mumbai video, linked above and below. For now, I'll just give you a brief rundown. Jamsetji Tata of the Tata Group broke ground on the first Taj Hotel in 1902. Since then, the brand has expanded to 89 properties across the whole of India and 9 other countries. They have a goal of 100 properties by 2025. Starting with this, the Taj Lake Palace, in the 1970s, they began acquiring the rights to various palaces and converting them into hotels of international luxury standards. For those of you that didn't know, Taj's parent company, the Tata Group, is also the new, well, second time around, owner of Air India, along with Singapore Airlines. So to say that the Tata Group has dipped its toe into the Indian tourism market is a bit of an understatement. When I come back for breakfast tomorrow, we'll take a better look at the restaurant facility, filled with beautiful scalloped archways framing Lake Pichola. For now, though, I'll give you a look at the full menu. This is the multi-cuisine restaurant of the hotel, open throughout the day. Having Indian fare for dinner each night, I dabbled with Western fare for lunch and was not at all disappointed. For salad, this one certainly ticked all the boxes. Okay, time to head to my room. I had a lake view king room for my stay. There's no question about it, the rooms are compact. But considering we're in an actual palace with a footprint that can be expanded, I'm more than happy with the space on offer and think that it's a nice and comfortable layout. The details in the room are really top-notch. Reality is, it would be really easy for a hotel like this to, let's say, get away with furnishings that might be a bit worn and torn, coasting on their name alone. But not here, that's for sure. I'll allow you to tour the room, and I'll come back to you with my favorite and least favorite details in just a bit. So you already know, for me, it's all about the details. So let's get into my 3 least favorite things about this room. God knows I'm going to get about 80 comments saying it's not a coffee drinking culture, but the first point is the lack of a respectable coffee machine in the room. A 5-star hotel, especially one that is routinely well over $1,500 US dollars per night during high season for the same room, yeah, they should have decent coffee, period. Number 2, the Forest Essentials products. This is admittedly a minor grievance. I love Forest Essentials products. I spent more than I care to admit at the Forest Essentials duty-free store, but the scent that they have for the Palace just smells, elderly. Last up, and this is a big one, and it's part of the reason for my third big point. The birds, holy mother of God, the birds. Okay, close your eyes. Imagine a concert hall filled with 2,000 people. Now imagine that they all started screaming at the same time. Now imagine that those people are all birds. That's what it felt like when I woke up at 4 a.m. Have a listen. Bring your earplugs, your white noise machine, hell, just sleep in a bubble. My favorite details are easy though, and the first one is surely just the condition of just about everything in here. Second thing that I really love was the view, especially at night. There's something just a little bit magical about it that made you feel like you're on a really fancy river cruise. Though I wouldn't mind if there were like 93% less pigeons. Lastly, a small detail but a really good one. The light switches and outlets. This is not the only property I visited in India with these mechanical switches, but it was certainly the only place with ones as beautiful and polished as these. We've still got quite a bit to cover tonight with a lake cruise, a cultural show, and dinner. But first, let me show you around a few other areas of the palace, starting off with the other end of the courtyard. Upstairs now, we're in one of my favorite spots. You may very well recognize this view from the awkwardly named Octopussy, which was filmed here in 1983 with beautiful views of Udaipur in the background. It's original marble details like this that really do set a property like this apart from just about anything else. I visited during low season, and so it seemed like they were just using one side of the palace for guests, but there were guest rooms around the entire perimeter of the palace. Remember that 4th palace that I mentioned? So it's way up on the peak of that mountain in the distance. Built in 1884, this was known as the Monsoon Palace, which was built in part so the rulers could observe the monsoon clouds from above, and perhaps even more importantly, stay above the monsoonal rains themselves. Each evening, the hotel has a chargeable sunset boat ride around the lake, which will bring you past the city palace, to the north side, and then down to Jagmandir, before heading back to the palace just after sunset. Small pet peeve, for the price that you're paying to stay at this palace, it would be nice if this was included. As we cruise around, let me tell you about my third big point today. Don't stay here. I know, I'm sorry, I blindsided you a bit there, but hear me out. I'm not saying avoid it altogether. So you can see right now in front of you the city palace complex. Would you be surprised to know that part of that palace is also a hotel, also a Taj? It is in fact the Taj Fateh Prakash. Now, I'll state loudly and clear that I've never stayed there, but if I was coming back to Udaipur and I wanted to show the Taj Lake Palace to friends or family, here's what I would do. By the way, this is Jagmandir. I would stay at the city palace and visit the lake palace one day, perhaps for lunch, or maybe even dinner after your own sunset cruise. Why am I saying this? Well, like I said, the Taj Lake Palace is small. There's not a whole lot to do. If you're staying here, I assure you, one night is enough. There are no grounds to walk around, no hidden corners to explore. I'm not criticizing, it is what it is. When you factor in another possible heavy metal bird concert at 4 a.m., I think I'd be quite happy sleeping landside. But again, there's nothing wrong with the lake palace. It's simply for the reasons that I mentioned. It doesn't mean that it's not a perfect place to stay for some of you. Okay, time to head back to the palace and watch the sunset from the water. The sunset is gorgeous. But it does have one very terrifying consequence. Terrifying to me at least. When the sun goes down, the bats come out. We were surrounded literally seconds after the sunset. Anyway, as we admire the palace, let me quickly talk about my one real criticism for the hotel. The service. Again, I blindsided you. My apologies. Some of you probably just ripped your hair out screaming, but it's a Taj. But again, hear me out. The service here can very easily be split into 2 categories. The older generation and the younger generation. The older staff, likely having worked here for decades, were absolutely everything that you'd imagine at a Taj property. They were the Dharma personified. They grew up working, being taught, guest is God, as many Indian chains practice. No complaints about them whatsoever. For the younger staff, though, apart from my initial welcome, it was as if they were allergic to smiling, or just warmth in general. It was very weird, to be honest. They were all accommodating and fairly efficient, but they were just lacking a certain je ne sais quoi. Perhaps lacking a bit of Tajness. Before dinner, we had the nightly cultural show in the courtyard. I'll just say that these performances were basically part of my nightly routine throughout my time in India, but this one was by far the best. The musicians and dancers were all very charismatic and loved it when the guests were actually getting involved in the performance. Time for dinner at Neil Kamal. Taj themselves had this very lofty statement about the restaurant itself. Quote, the food prepared by our Mewari chefs gives an authentic savor of then-known consommas, undoubtedly making the gastronomy inevitable to explore. Presenting majestic cuisines of the region, Neil Kamal has a vibrant assortment of Rajasthani and Northwest frontier cuisine. Allow me to translate that for you. This place is fancy. I'm not quite sure if the food actually lived up to the standards that were suggested by the gold Versace plates and utensils, though. The food was normally mild, not just in spice, but also in flavor, borderline bland. Something I just didn't expect. Anyone who's ever traveled to India knows that at any nice restaurant, you'll likely be asked for your spice preference. My answer is always, as the dish is intended to be made. But it just felt like that actually wasn't the case here. It was a very busy day, and by the time dinner was over, it was nearly past my bedtime. I'll see you in the morning. Pretty convenient and beautiful for the sun to rise over the city palace. Time for a very well done breakfast in the stunning Jaroka. The marble detailing here is really next level. The reason I mentioned coming to the palace for lunch is because in a heartbeat I'd recommend this restaurant over where I had dinner. I'll also say that there is a third rooftop restaurant named Biro, but that wasn't open during the time of my stay, but that was communicated well in advance. Breakfast was a light buffet that you see here, beautifully presented, along with a full a la carte menu as well. By the way, there is also a spa on site and a borderline miniature fitness center. So let's see if we can't wrap this up neatly. The Taj Lake Palace is worthy of its stature and reputation. It is beautiful, and the amount of history soaked in these walls goes far beyond the snippets that I was able to share today. If you're in Udaipur, or if the Lake Palace is on your bucket list, it is surely worth a visit. But as always, I gotta be honest at every turn, and that's why I really do believe that you might enjoy your time in Udaipur better if you stay at one of the other beautiful hotels on the mainland and then have a quick visit to the Taj Lake Palace. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please be sure to click that thumbs up button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming India content. I'll see you next time from just across the lake at the Oberoi Uday Villas here in Udaipur. Oh, and thanks for watching until
मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मूंह चढ़िया यार इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मूंह चढ़िया यार भूलेंदा जी मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी मूंह चढ़िया यार भूलेंदा जी मैनू इश्क भुला दे देंदा जी किते शिया किते सुन्नी किते शिया किते सुन्नी किते पता काबे दा दसदा किते पता काबे दा दसदा किते पता ओ रानी रानी बामा गा किते पता काबे दा दसदा किते पता काबे दा दसदा ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਫਾਰਗ ਕੁੰਨੀ ਏ ਤੇਰੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਫਾਰਗ ਕੁੰਨੀ ਏ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂ ਸੋ ਯਾਰ ਮਾਣਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂ ਸੋ ਯਾਰ ਮਾਣਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਜਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਜਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਸਨੀ ਦਾ ਗਾਣੇ ਗਾ ਜਾਣਾ ਨੀ ਦਾ ਨੀ ਬਾਮਾ ਗਾ ਮਾਮਾ ਪਾ ਮਾ ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ ਪਾ ਮਾ ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ 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 ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ ਪਾ ਮਾ ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ 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 ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ ਪਾ ਮਾ ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ 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 ਗਾ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ ਦਾ ਨੀ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ ਪਾ ਮਾ ਗਾ ਸਾ ਨੀ ਸਾ ਗਾ ਮਾ 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 ਗਾ ਸਾ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਸਾ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਸਾ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਗਾ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਮਾ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਪਾ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਨੀ 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 ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਸਾ ਦਾ ਦਾ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਗਾ ਗਾ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਮਾ ਮਾ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਪਾ ਪਾ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਨੀ ਨੀ ਸਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਸਾ ਦਾ 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 ਗੋਵਣੀ ਮੋਹਵਣੀ ਨਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਦਾ ਦਾ ਗੋਵਣੀ ਮੋਹਵਣੀ ਨਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਦਾ ਗੋਵਣੀ ਮੋਹਵਣੀ ਨਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਮੋਹਵਣੀ ਨਗਦਨਿਦਾ ਮੋਹਵਣੀ ਨਗਦਨਿਦਾ 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 ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਭੁੱਲਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਜੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਸੂਰਤ ਨੇ ਬਰਮਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਸੂਰਤ ਨੇ ਬਰਮਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਉਸੇ ਪਾਕ ਜਮਾਲ ਵਿਖਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਉਸੇ ਪਾਕ ਜਮਾਲ ਵਿਖਾਇਆ ਜੀ ਉਹ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ ਉਹ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਭੁਲਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਂਦਾ ਜੀ
अभी से लुत्फ़ मुरव्वत का एहतमाम न कर नजर को तीर लबों जब ना थी ये जहां जब ना था चांद सूरज ना थे आसमां जब ना था राज़े हक भी किसी पर आया जब ना था राज़े हक भी किसी पर आया जब ना था तब ना था कुछ यहाँ तब ना था कुछ यहाँ मगर तू ही तू अल्लाहू अल्लाहू अल्लाहू
बशर सना के लिए, सना बशर के लिए है, बशर सना के लिए। तमाम हमद सजावार है खुदा के लिए, अता के सामने अता के सामने खता का जिक्र ही क्या कि तू अता के लिए है, बशर खता के लिए। अल्लाहू 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 खड़ीदा देता, अल्लाहू 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 ला इलाहा तेरी शान या वहदहू, ला इलाहा तेरी शान या वहदहू। तू ख्यालो तजस्सुस तू ही आरज़ू, आँख की रोशनी दिल की आवाज तू, आँख की रोशनी दिल की आवाज तू। था भी तू है भी तू, था भी तू है भी तू, होगा भी तू ही तू। डाली डाली तेरी तख्लीक के गुण गाती है, पत्ता पत्ता यही कहता है कि माबूद है तू। बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया। तेरे इश्क नचाया, तेरे इश्क नचाया, तेरे इश्क नचाया करके भैया भैया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया। ओले छुप गया सूरज पार रह गई लाली, ओले छुप गया सूरज पार रह गई लाली। मैं सद के होवा तेरे मुड़ जिद खाली, मैं सद के होवा तेरे मुड़ जिद खाली। पीरा मैं भूल गईया, पीरा मैं भूल गईया, पीरा मैं भूल गईया, तेरे नाल न गईया, नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा नहीं ते मैं मर गईया, छेती बोड़ी वे तबीबा।